Hey everybody, welcome to EDT 521. My name is Bill Selleck, he, him. I'm your instructor for the next 8 weeks. So, should we jump into it? I ask as though you have any say in the matter. You do not. Let me tell you a little bit about myself, then a little bit about this course, overview of that, what you should be looking at, so you get kind of a good feel for what is coming your way in the next 8 weeks. So first off, my day job is Director of Technology at Hillbrook School. I have my Hillbrook shirt. There we are. We're an independent school in San Jose and Los Gatos, kindergarten through 12th grade. We opened a high school, like we got the keys last Monday. So my job has been very, very busy. Starting my 11th year at Hillbrook. I have 3 kids. They all go to our school. They're heading into grades 4, 6, and 7. Um, we are definitely a progressive school. We're a one-to-one iPad and laptop and Apple Distinguished school. I'm an Apple Distinguished educator. Before I was at Hillbrook, I was teaching kindergarten, 2nd grade, and then 4th and 5th grade music. Um, Definitely love working with younger kids. I think younger students are capable of some amazing stuff. Um, a lot of times when you hear about like interesting tech stuff, it tends to be high school, which, yeah, yes, and 2nd graders can do amazing things and will blow your minds if you give them opportunities. So, this course, I felt kind of boring. Am I that boring? I don't know. Perhaps. Um, I make homemade pretzels as well. Maybe I'm less boring now. That was fun. My kids one day said, I want pretzels. I was like, Target shopping cart, and they're like, no, 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 like the soft pretzels, so I can make those. Like, yeah, this Bill again. Not that I need to be boring or not for you to take the class. You're stuck either way. But let me go through kind of each week. I'll give you a really high level overview. We'll move pretty quickly and then look at all the assignments. The biggest thing is to start here where it says start here. Um, that's where you have all it walks you through the name of the course, which by the way is designing learning environments for equity and accessibility. We're going to jump pretty deep into assistive technologies. That really drives a lot of what we're doing. Make sure you have the textbook, the latest 7th edition APA manual. Look at all of the amazing things that we have under student support services, looking at like the library resources, tech services, the writing studio. All of those are amazing resources, so definitely look at that. Also be sure, hopefully, obviously, to look at the rubric. Um, Make sure you're looking at like late policies, the School of Ed policies overall. All that stuff is important, and you should go through all of that. So, the way I tend to kind of look at assistive technology is that there's 2 parts, and I think both can be true. There are students that absolutely need assistive tech. Some is really low tech, like pencil grips would be an example of that, or it could be really high tech, like a student can't move their arms and legs, and so they have switch control. So like in their wheelchair, they basically have like a 0 and a 1, or like a yes or a no, and by hitting that switch, they're able to control a device, which is complicated and expensive and extraordinary that we have these tools for students. So there's some tools. Kind of the first part is that students absolutely need, as an equity issue, as an inclusivity issue, and then there's kind of other stuff that is kind of good for everybody. And so if you're in a big room, using a microphone is an assistive technology piece, and there's some students with hearing differences that need that, and it's better for everyone. In a similar way that like a lot of when I was getting my credential, a lot of the ELL strategies that were like if you have a student who's, so I'm not a huge fan of that. I prefer like emerging bilingual. For your emerging bilingual students that are just learning English, here's some strategies. And as I was going through that, I was like, on the one hand, yes, we absolutely need these strategies, but also these are just good teaching strategies for everyone. Because if you're teaching 2nd grade, they're all learning about English, how to read and write English. And some also need that. So in a similar way, I think with assistive technology, you're going to see that as AT. Teachers love acronyms. both can be true. There's things that students absolutely need as an accommodation, and a lot of these strategies and accommodations are good for everybody. Even just as we're looking at visuals, like with slides, um, high contrast is good for everybody. Clean fonts, good for everybody. Large fonts, good for everybody. For some students, it's absolutely necessary, and for everyone, it is helpful. So you're going to see kind of that trend as we look at assignments and different topics throughout our time together. So week 1 really looks at AT, assistive technology. Sometimes people say assistive tools. Week 2 looks at Bloom's digital taxonomy, right? So we have, if we just Google Bloom's digital taxonomy, look at that. Arizona State is now the first one with it. Depending on who you've talked with, like Common Sense Media, Common Sense Education has jumped into it. It takes the idea of Bloom's taxonomy, where at the very bottom is just remember, recall, list all 50 states and their capitals as an example of like just really simple recall. And at the top is creation or create. And with that, students have to synthesize all that stuff. They have to be able to like apply all that knowledge, understand things, analyze to create a thing. This is why I think students creating media, whether it's audio or video, like kind of podcast or podcasts, if they're not really publishing them, just audio kind of things or videos is so powerful, because it's not just, did I memorize the thing? Can I take a test on it? And then I'm likely going to forget 90% of it in a week. If they're making a thing, and in making the thing, we also know through brain research that it tends to be more memorable. It's sticky if you make a thing. If you write a song, I still, oh my gosh, see, like this, I just had this flashback. In 11th grade, we read The Glass Menagerie, and I had a band. I don't even know if you can call it a band. We were so bad. And a classmate of mine, who also had the last name of S, was the singer, and we wrote a song, Bump on a Log, about Laura and Tom. Like, how would I remember that after 30 years? Because we wrote a song. I don't remember anything else about the class or any of the tests. Certainly don't remember any multiple choice anything, but because we had to create a thing, my goodness, is that sticky. So we're going to talk about that. I'll talk more about that like in week 2. Week number 3, we're looking at UDL, again with the acronyms, Universal Design for Learners. In week 3, it says Universal Design for All Learners. It's a way to think through kind of lesson planning, and really it's more of kind of a mindset of how you plan learning experiences for students. Our school, Hillbrook, is doing a decent amount of training kind of throughout the year, kind of like once a month we'll check in with teachers and look at kind of UDL strategies. So it's good stuff. Also talking about equity, really specifically around physical disabilities and what assistive tools are in play with that. Week number 4, again, looks at equity. This time it's just around socioeconomic, and how that plays into the classroom. I need to go faster here. You don't need to. You'll get a video each week jumping into each one of these. Week 5 is also on equity. This term has a lot of baggage with it. Gifted and talented students. Was anyone else labeled like I was, gifted and talented? And now do you have like a fair amount of anxiety and like all sorts of, we don't need to make this like a therapy session here, but the idea that like if you're not perfect, you're a failure. For me as a student at the 80s that was labeled gifted, oh my goodness, for the longest time was like, I have to be smart, I have to get it perfect. There's a lot to unpack with that, both amongst ourselves and also genuinely looking at that box of like students who are above grade level, students who do have like a designation of being gifted. It's also an interesting thing that like gifted and talented, that like, does that mean there's students that aren't talented? I would argue that all students are talented, and I would hope most educators would agree with that as well. But we'll talk more about that later. Week number 6, as we continue talking about equity, we're talking about closing that achievement gap. So around where we've kind of arbitrarily said students need to be at this level, at this age, by this time in the year. if they're not there, how do we work with that? And again, part of it is completely constructed. I mean, to be fair, all of education and standards and what we teach and why we teach it is all constructed. We made it all up, and it's a real thing that if there's a gap there, that gap often grows significantly year after year, and there's really specific strategies we can take that will help with that. So I think a lot of this course, both things can be true. That was another example for you with that. Week number 7 is access to technology for all. I'll have a couple good stories for you on that. It's really just around inclusivity. How do we make sure that everyone has a seat at the table? It reminds me, I need to keep bringing up this book. Good friend Ken Shelton wrote this book, The Promises and Perils of AI and Education. Second half is Ethics and Equity Have Entered the Chat. I'll be connecting AI and education to almost all of what we're talking about here. We're not going to have it on the Canvas page because it's in 8 weeks. It will be different, but I'll try and pull kind of the latest news and strategies and feed it with you. A lot of what this book talks about is equity, and it really, like, we'll dig into it in week 7. And this is not required reading. It's not a textbook for the course. But the idea that AI can actually give less access to students is something we need to be aware of, particularly when the latest and greatest models are paid. Suddenly, the promise of everyone can have their one-on-one tutor if you have the right prompt. Actually, that's close to accurate. But if you have a free version, that's going to be an issue. And then week 8, it's really just kind of wrapping up all the course. Let's talk about assignments very quickly, and I'll talk about week 8. Week number 1, I'm going to talk about this in the week 1 video. It's the AT, the Assistive Technology Table. There's a brief reflection. After this video, go look at the week 1 video. Assignment 2 is a lesson plan using Bloom's digital taxonomy. It's the whole thing of what week 2 is. Assignment number 3 is a 3-day lesson plan. It's a big project. You typically don't lesson plan 3 straight days of stuff. So that's a bigger one. Assignment number 4 is a survey. It's the State of Equity survey. And then assignment number 5, kind of leading where assignment 4 takes off, is a school equity reflection paper. You'll notice there's only 5 assignments, and there are 8 weeks, which means there will be 3 weeks with no assignments. And that also means that the following week, that assignment's likely going to be a bigger one. So that is what you have. Make sure to review the syllabus, the course policies, the School of Ed policies, and then head over to week 1. My video for that is there. And welcome to 521. This is a good course. Much like parents are not supposed to say, like, this kid's my favorite. I don't know that I'll say this course is my favorite, but this one has like a special place in my heart because it looks at how we can include everyone in really concrete ways. That's really cool. It really feels like, as we talk about this, not only is it applicable in ways that other coursework sometimes isn't, but it also is like, wow, like, it really feels like the stuff we talk about, the discussion boards, which often can be like, yes, I agree with you. That is a good point. I am now saying something, so I get credit in the discussion board. It really feels like the discussions here feel more authentic, helpful, and it like reminds me what I care about as an educator, that we can really include more students. It's good stuff. I think you're going to like this course. So head over to the week 1 page, and welcome to 521, everybody.